Okay, I'm going to talk about this very briefly. I'm not going to be too long. The anniversary of the death of the Branch Davidians is coming up on the 19th of April. This is a horrific reminder and a tragedy. And, history can and it will repeat itself if people do not recognize what a cult is. Don't like the name? Sorry, it just means adding to the Bible. And that's what David Koresh did. He played God. There is many passages in the Bible stating that when you add and take out of God's word, judgment will follow. And David Koresh thought he was a sinful, not a sinless, but he thought he was a sinful Messiah. And he took it upon himself to take in people in his sect or group, and he went mad. In other words, really think that he became possessed by the devil to do what he did. Because anyone that would separate husband and wife and take their wives and have sex with them, and then take their children and have sex with them, has seriously got something going on up there that is not normal. Okay, and that what makes you sick about YouTube and people that will create these documentaries, and then we re-looked at this and it wasn't David Koresh's fault. Are you kidding me? He had a lot to do with this. Okay. And yes, there was some stuff going on with the ATF and things weren't handled correctly, but David Koresh knew exactly what he was doing, just like Jim Jones. He already had it set up long time ago. And so this is the Branch Davidian cult. And to this day, they think that David Koresh is going to come back and judge others, because they think that he is the Messiah. They still in their head think that he's the Messiah for some reason. And they're not reading the Bible. They are reading out of context, thinking that he is a man of God, and he was a man of God, and he was sacrificed because people did something because they didn't want him to exist. That isn't it. The devil wanted to destroy him from the beginning. And rather than him following God's truth with love, he chose rebellion. That's what happens when you choose rebellion. So he's in this reform group, and he just created a destructive cult. The FBI viewed David Koresh as a deranged individual, which he was. Anyone that can have sex with other people's wives and then their children, thinking that he's got to create his own kingdom children, is deranged. He believed himself to be Jesus, and he can have what he wants. And the people have told you, if he wanted sex, he got it. If he wanted malt liquor, he got it. When people were told not to eat certain things, he did it. He ate what he wanted to, and he told them that they would get whipped if they ate food they were told not to. They couldn't even put cheese in their soup without getting in trouble. So he set the rules. He didn't follow him, but he told everybody else they had to. They said that he was sexually abusing children in the compound, and I bet he was. Oh, well, obviously, if you're having sex with someone else's child, it's pedophile. He's a pedophile. And the tragedy was that on February 23rd, the ATF agents decided to arrest David Koresh on firearms violations. They attempted to serve him a search warrant, and it resulted in exchange of gunfire. And it left 4 ATF agents dead, okay? Because he already had weapons. They already knew he had weapons. And so the FBI agents took over, and the 51-day siege began. And then on the 19th, then it happened. The Bureau decided it was it was okay. We're just going to go ahead and attack the compound with tear gas. And then somehow fire was started. They're stating it was David that lit the compound. He already decided they was going to pour a ring of fire around the house. So there was only 8 followers that were able to escape. Now they're saying the ATF did it, or the FBI did it. See how they're changing the rules? So David Koresh and about 75 of his followers died of either stab wounds, gunshots, smoke inhalation, and 21 of those were kids, okay? 5 of the followers were convicted of voluntary manslaughter and firearms violations. So to this day, the controversy remains. Who did what? Who was to blame? They said it's divided. But mainly, he decided to create his own little world or his own sect. And everybody thinks that, well, if you just let him alone, he wouldn't be like this. He would still be here. Wrong. He was already growing paranoid. He was doing things he shouldn't have done. He was being abusive. He was hurting children. And people that they must have a sick sense of thinking that Seventh-day Adventists are Christians. They're not Christians. They don't know the gospel of Jesus Christ. They've taken it out of context. There might be people that's been in that church. I've walked in a Seventh-day Adventist church and went to the retreats. They're not preaching the gospel. They preach anything but. They have their Bible handy, but they use the Ellen White footnotes. Because she was their prophetess. And she overruled everything that was in the Bible. She'd take chicken out. So, this is probably one of the 5 active cults that was around at that time. And it was considered to be one of the most dangerous because he manipulated people to get what he wanted. He obviously was quite good at manipulating to get that many stockpile of guns there. And it makes you wonder, how is it that he got away with getting that many guns on that compound? And he labeled himself to be a church. What is a church doing with all those guns inside? It wasn't a church, it was a cult. So, let history hopefully wake people's eyes up to what can happen when you get involved in someone like this. So, I just, this is going to continue. We're going to talk about this for a long, long time. And he thought he was Jesus Christ. That's Antichrist, okay? He was of Antichrist. Anyone that dares to say that they are of Christ, that's Antichrist. And the sad fact is, he didn't have the upbringing to teach him no better. His own mother said it was okay that he could have sex with other people's wives and their children. You see, what did God's word say? Train up your children in the ways of the Lord and they won't depart from it. But this wasn't the gospel. This wasn't the Lord. This was the world. So he chose to play that sinful Messiah. And as a result, 82 people died. And to this day, regardless what people say, the Seventh-day Adventism is not Christianity. It's a sect or cult. And there's people that will fight you tooth and nail about it because they believe that Ellen White has said, well, I ain't a prophet. I'm only a disciple of God, or I'm following what God is telling me to do. But right there, she's been telling them for centuries. And even after her death, they still read her book. They still listen to what she has to say at the end of the footnotes. How many people are inside of Seventh-day Adventist cults right now, believing this lie, thinking that David Koresh is coming back to judge? They actually think he's the Messiah. They're fools. They don't know any better. They have no education when it comes to, why this really took place. It is sad tragedy those children died. It's horrible to know that. But to sit there and say you're going to put the blame on the ATF and everybody else solely, when David Koresh had a lot to do with this. He could have chose to surrender back when they first went to surround him and capture him. But he didn't. They fired back. It wasn't the ATF that started it. It was David Koresh, because he already said, they ain't taking my babies. Because if they take my babies, then we're going to have some problems. He did the same thing that Jim Jones did. I'm just, my take on it is, you got all these keyboard warriors out there that they tend to think that they know everything. They can analyze everything, but they haven't even experienced anything like this. And you come out of a destructive cult, then we'll talk, But I ain't talking to none of these people that think they know it all when they don't. They're just in there for I guess they get off on, seeing other people hurt. That's what makes you sick about the whole thing with YouTubes. Everybody has to have their own opinion. When they don't see the red flags, they don't see that it hurts people, that it causes destruction and damage for the rest of their life. But they like to capitalize on it because, see, social media makes them rich. Sad, ain't it? But that's the way it goes. So remember that on the 19th, those people that died, innocently died, they also had a choice. And as a result, what did they do? They chose to stay there. And look at the children that were caught in that. Was that their fault? No, it wasn't. It's parents' fault. And there should be a lesson learned with this. But do people learn their lesson? No. They didn't do it back in Jim Jones' time, and they ain't going to do it. They didn't do it back in Koresh's time. And one of these days, it's going to happen again. Maybe it might happen in Queensland. We got a guy that thinks he's Jesus Christ there. So, lesson learned, guys. Stay away from the Seventh-day Adventists. They are a cult.